Have you ever walked into the hospital feeling like your heart was heavier than your scrubs? Maybe you clocked in wondering, God, do you still see me here? Between endless shifts, patient losses, and the quiet moments when no one says thank you, it's easy to forget something vital. Your heaven's hands in the hospital. That's not just poetic, it's truth. But somewhere between caring for others and barely caring for yourself, that truth gets buried under exhaustion and burnout. Here's the controversial part. The problem isn't that healthcare is broken. It's that many Christian nurses, doctors, and caregivers have forgotten who sent them. Faith in healthcare isn't about preaching in hallways. It's about practicing presence, bringing hope, and walking in divine calling right where others see chaos. God didn't send you into medicine just to survive 12-hour shifts. He sent you to heal with His heart. And when you remember that, even the toughest night shifts can feel like sacred ground. In the next few minutes, we'll rediscover the deep purpose in healthcare that God designed for you. Not the hospital's mission statement, but heaven's. We'll talk about faith-based motivation, real tools for healthcare burnout recovery, and spiritual encouragement that reignites your calling. So, if you've been running on empty, it's time to refill your spirit and remember, you're not just a healthcare worker, you're part of God's plan for healing the world. Remembering who sent you. Every Christian healthcare worker faces moments when faith feels distant, when the IV pumps beep louder than prayer. But here's the truth. You were sent, not just hired. God placed you in that hospital, that clinic, that emergency room, with a divine purpose in healthcare that runs deeper than any paycheck. Christian nurses and doctors aren't just medical professionals, they're missionaries in scrubs. When you see your shift through heaven's eyes, even charting vitals becomes a holy act. It's not about what you do, it's about who's doing it through you. Think about it. Jesus healed with touch, with presence, with compassion, the same tools you use daily. That's not coincidence, it's calling. When you hold a trembling patient's hand, whisper a prayer for nurses under your breath, or pause for a quick Christian meditation for doctors before a procedure, you're walking in faith and healing. You're showing that God and medicine are not opposites but partners. Each patient you meet could be your next divine appointment, not random, but orchestrated. So next time you feel small in that hospital hallway, remember, heaven hasn't forgotten your name or your badge number. You're part of a hospital ministry that stretches far beyond what the eye can see. And maybe, just maybe, when you remember who sent you, you'll begin to see why He sent you there. But what happens when the calling feels heavy? When the fire starts to fade and burnout creeps in? That's where the next part of your journey begins. When the fire fades, fighting burnout with faith. Even the strongest Christian nurses and doctors can feel their light flicker. Long shifts, emotional exhaustion, and the constant demand to stay compassionate. It all piles up. But burnout isn't a sign that your calling is gone. It's a reminder that your soul needs tending. Faith-based self-care isn't selfish. It's stewardship. You can't pour spiritual encouragement for nurses from an empty cup. Taking time to pray, breathe, or read a short healthcare devotional isn't weakness. It's fuel for the fight. Picture this. You finish a 14-hour shift, your feet ache, and your heart feels heavier than your stethoscope. Before collapsing into bed, what if you took just 3 minutes to reconnect with the one who sent you? Whisper a prayer like, Lord, refill my compassion so I can reflect yours. That simple moment can become the difference between despair and divine strength. Faith in the hospital isn't only shown through miracles. It's found in these quiet, sacred pauses where heaven refills your heart. And here's something to chew on. Burnout healing doesn't start at the spa. It starts at the altar. You don't have to wait for Sunday service to experience restoration. You can find God in the hospital break room, in your car before clocking in, or in the stillness of a prayer whispered behind a mask. Because the truth is, God's calling for nurses and doctors doesn't end when you're tired. It deepens. But how do you keep that faith alive when hope itself feels out of reach? That's what we'll uncover next. Finding hope in the hallways. Hope can feel like a rare medicine in hospital corridors filled with suffering. But Christian healthcare workers carry something stronger than morphine. They carry divine hope. It's not naive optimism. It's faith in healthcare that says, God is here, even in this. Every Christian nurse who whispers encouragement to a grieving family, or every doctor who prays silently before delivering hard news, becomes a living reminder that light still shines in dark places. Hope doesn't always roar. It often walks quietly in scrubs, carrying a chart and a heart full of compassion. There's power in small acts of faith. One nurse once wrote a short note that said, "You're not alone, God's got you," and tucked it under a patient's pillow. That simple act sparked tears, prayer, and peace in the middle of chaos. That's what purpose in healthcare looks like, seeing patients not just as cases, but as souls. Spiritual encouragement for nurses isn't found in grand gestures. It's in consistent, gentle reminders that God's plan for healthcare workers includes spreading hope one moment at a time. But staying hopeful doesn't mean ignoring pain. It means choosing to believe in healing even when the outcome looks grim. When a code blue echoes down the hallway and fear fills the air, faith whispers, "He's still here." That's the kind of unshakable hope that transforms hospitals into places of holy ground. Still, hope thrives best when it's shared, and that's where the next part of this journey leads, turning your faith into action that others can feel. Turning faith into action. Faith that stays silent fades fast. Christian doctors and nurses aren't called to blend in, they're called to be seen through love. Turning faith into action isn't about quoting scripture between patient rounds. It's about living out the verses with every touch, tone, and treatment. It's found in comforting a scared patient like Christ would, in forgiving a rude coworker before your shift even ends, or in mentoring a new nurse who's losing heart. These moments may not make headlines, but in heaven's records, they're the miracles that count. For example, one Christian nurse started a small prayer huddle before each shift, just a 1-minute prayer for strength and peace. Soon, even non-believing coworkers joined, drawn to the calm that followed. That's faith-based motivation in action. No preaching, no pressure, just presence. It's healthcare ministry disguised as teamwork. Every small choice to serve, to smile, or to pause and pray transforms sterile hospital walls into sacred spaces. It's how God and medicine weave together to heal body and spirit alike. And here's the thing. When you live your faith out loud, you give permission for others to do the same. Courage is contagious. As you practice faith in the hospital through action, you'll notice others begin to soften, to hope, to ask questions. And that's when the shift happens, not just in your work, but in your soul. Yet to sustain this kind of living faith, you need more than action. You need a rhythm of spiritual strength that keeps your heart aligned with your calling. That's what comes next. Sustaining the flame, growing spiritually in the midst of chaos. Every Christian healthcare worker knows that faith can flicker when life inside the hospital feels like a storm. Between alarms, emergencies, and emotional strain, it's easy to lose that steady rhythm of peace. But spiritual strength for caregivers isn't found in escaping chaos. It's found in meeting God within it. Think of those moments before a shift begins, that short prayer whispered over your badge, that quiet Christian meditation for doctors in the car before you walk in. Those habits are anchors that keep heaven close, even when the world feels far. Just like the body needs nourishment, the soul needs consistent care. Try setting aside 5 minutes each day for a healthcare devotional or a short prayer for nurses. It doesn't have to be complicated, just intentional. Read a verse that reminds you of your divine calling in healthcare, or journal one thing you saw God do during your shift. These small acts become spiritual CPR for the weary heart, breathing faith and healing back into your daily routine. That's how burnout recovery becomes a byproduct of connection, not just rest. And here's a truth worth remembering. You were never meant to carry this alone. Lean into community, other Christian nurses, faith-based support groups, or mentors who understand the intersection of faith and healing. Sharing stories of hope for healthcare professionals reignites courage and reminds you that your purpose is eternal, not circumstantial. Because when your spirit is fueled, your hands become unstoppable instruments of grace. And that, my friend, is where heaven truly meets the hospital. If you've made it this far, maybe your heart's beating a little differently now. Maybe you've remembered what the hospital sometimes makes you forget, that you're heaven's hands, right where God planted you. Every prayer whispered between patients, every act of compassion when no one's watching, every ounce of grace you give when you have none left, it all matters. This is what faith-based motivation looks like when it's lived out in scrubs and sneakers. You're not just showing up for work, you're showing up for God's work. So here's the challenge. Will you keep treating your calling like a job, or will you start walking those hospital halls like sacred ground? Will you choose spiritual encouragement for nurses and doctors when the world around you chooses exhaustion? Will you let your faith in healthcare be the quiet revolution that changes how medicine is practiced? One heart, one prayer, one healing moment at a time. If this message reignited something in you, even a spark, don't let it fade. Keep growing, keep grounding your purpose in His presence, and remember, God hasn't finished using you yet. You're part of His plan for healing the world. So if you want to keep learning, growing, and finding hope in medicine, make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and stay connected, because together, we'll keep your flame of faith burning, even in the busiest hospital halls.